Good morning, my name is Amelia Chambers. Have you ever gone a day, maybe a week without social media? According to the Office of National Statistics, 91% of 16 to 24-year-olds use the internet for social media and describe it as being more addictive than cigarettes or alcohol. So picture yourself sitting in a classroom where over half the kids have some sort of access to social media accounts. 92% of teens report going online daily, with 24 who say they go online almost constantly. As you can see, up to 4 hours are spent on the average daily on social media. After accepting the exponential use and considering these statistics, I can conclude that due to the rapid evolution of social media over the past 25 years, U.S. adolescent development has been negatively affected due to the increasing struggle with mental health, communication skills, and false perceptions of reality. The sole purpose for these platforms is for people to share their photos where others can like, comment, or view. Often people only share a distorted slice of their reality. As you can see, the girl on the left is flawed yet completely normal, and after using a photo editing app can put on a full face of makeup. These unrealistic ideas can influence adolescents to feel inadequate. As Melissa Hunt says from University of Pennsylvania, when you look at other people's lives, particularly on Instagram, it's easy to conclude that everyone's life is cooler or better than yours. Here she is describing the comparison trap, which can often result in kids accepting social defeat and developing a poor self-image. But this goes both ways, for kids who view the photos and kids who edit them. Kids who edit these photos can lose a sense of who they are and fear that others won't accept them for their true selves. As you can see, digitally manipulated photos can result in a poor self-image due to fear of rejection or lack of self-acceptance. According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, held on the 4th level is self-esteem. This includes a feeling of achievement, self-confidence, and self-respect. If kids have a low self-esteem, it can result in keeping them from achieving their goals and establishing a self-identity. As kids use social media more and more, they forget how to deal with daily difficulties. As Jane McGonigal describes it, and in real life, when we face failures, when we confront obstacles, we often don't feel that way, as if they would on social media. We feel overcome, we feel overwhelmed, we feel anxious, maybe depressed, frustrated, or cynical. There's a direct correlation between the use of social media and mental health. As rates of social media has grown to 91%, anxiety and depression have grown to 71%. This can be due to perceived isolation, comparison, less healthy activity, limited social interaction, as well as sleep deprivation. For example, with a lack of sleep comes difficulty coping with daily life, which can result in feelings of worry or stress. Both anxiety and depression can negatively impact a kid's life, making them feel an overwhelming feeling of chronic worry or depressed mood. Because of this, it can make it hard for them to attend school, go to work, or even leave the house. A relatively new factor that has come from the use of social media is cyberbullying. 7 in 10 young people have experienced cyberbullying, with 37% who experience cyberbullying on a high-frequency basis. Cyberbullying is quite easy because it masks the face of the bully and the emotions of the victim. Victims can feel overwhelming feelings of anxiety, depression, or even fear to communicate or leave the house. Social media acts as a central facilitator, relaying messages at the speed of light. As you can see, around 684,000 pieces of content are shared every minute on Facebook. Because of this, face-to-screen communication has grown immensely. Around 74% of millennials prefer conversing digitally rather than in person. The need for rapid bits of information has kept people from clearly expressing their thoughts or ideas. Because of this, it has shown an increased likelihood to develop symptoms of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, also known as ADHD. In a study conducted by the University of California Department of Psychology, it showed after a 2-year follow-up that a high-frequency rate of social media usage was compared to an increased development of ADHD symptoms. This is because the brain becomes accustomed to the low demand from social media and develops a lack of focus. Due to the lack of engagement, kids have difficulty developing or recognizing social cues such as body language, facial expression, approach, or tone. Proper communication etiquette is necessary to form strong and successful relationships. According to this graph, employment growth is more rapid for occupations requiring social skills rather than analytical or physical skills. While many say that social media connects communities often and it helps their communication effectiveness, it diminishes how well they can communicate with others. According to this study called the iPhone effect, in the presence of iPhones, shown on this solid line, conversation was reported to hold a less empathetic concern as well as being less fulfilling. 62% of the people studied admitted that they use devices while with others. Because social media is integrated into our daily life, destroying it is impossible, but reduction is. It's important that parents enforce their kids to join some sort of sport or club. This will ensure that they have social interaction as well as a healthy self-esteem. Also, they should enforce healthy social media etiquette. For example, the Young Health Movement has a document called #Status of Mind, where they educate kids how to deal with communicating through the screen as well as cyberbullying. Lastly, social media platforms should highlight when photos have been digitally manipulated or completely altogether block the photo editing apps. Although these are great solutions, there are limitations. If social media platforms are getting rid of such photo editing apps or even followers, it could be economically detrimental. And no matter how much you educate kids, there will always have existing bullies. Lastly, if parents are to enforce reduction upon persistent kids, it can cause behavioral issues. But to keep social media positive, it's important to enforce all three of these solutions. The importance of preserving kids' development is because the kids of today will develop to be the kids of the future of America. What questions do you have? Thank you.
Thank you, Amelia. I do have 2 questions for you. First up, how did your research question evolve as you went through the research process?
So at first I started with my question mainly focusing on mental health, but as I researched, it really expanded to be more upon behavioral in general because I learned about communication skills and as well as less of a self-esteem that comes from involving social media.
And what additional questions emerged from your research as you went through the process?
So as I went through the process, I really started to question how social media is affecting their performance not only in the future but now, because development is constantly changing. So how anxiety will affect things such as schoolwork or attending class or work or any sort of performance.
You're done. You can breathe.